everyone, it's Andrea from Movers and Bakers. Today I'm going to share with you how I make my chocolate fudge donuts. These are beautiful, cakey, soft chocolate donuts topped with the most amazing chocolate fudge icing, an absolute chocoholic's dream. Let's get baking. Right, to start with, I have my oven preheating at 180 Celsius and I'm going to prepare my donut pan. If you haven't got one of these, you will need this for this recipe. They are really widely available, so grab one. They are totally worth the investment. So I'm going to prepare my pan by brushing the inside of it with some melted butter. Now I'm using melted butter in my recipe, so I've just put a little bit more in and I've melted it all down, and I'm just going to use a brush to very quickly go all the way around and make sure that it's completely coated, and this is going to stop my donuts from sticking to the pan when they've baked. And that's it, all done. So we'll set that aside while we get our donut mixture ready. Now, before I get started with my donut mixture, it's a great time to remind you to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Right, dry ingredients first. Into a sieve, I'm going to put my plain flour, caster sugar, cocoa powder, baking powder, bicarbonate of soda, and finally some salt. So I'm going to sift all these together. Right, that's all sifted together. So we're just going to give it a very quick whisk to combine all those ingredients up. There you go, all done. So we set that aside for now, and now it's time for our wet ingredients. So I'm using a jug just because it's easier, and I'm going to pop in there some milk, 1 egg, a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Always make sure, as I've always said in all my videos, make sure you use vanilla extract, not vanilla essence, for the best flavor possible. So we'll pop a teaspoon of that in, and then whilst whisking, I'm going to pour in my melted butter. The reason I like to do it this way is it just means that I don't end up with one big lump of butter in my cold ingredients, that it all mixes up really well. All right, and once you've mixed up your wet ingredients, it's time to put them together. So I'm just going to pour this in and give it a quick mix together before we add our final ingredients to this mix. Now at this stage, you will find, like me, you will find that your mixture will be quite thick. Don't worry, we are going to add some hot water, and for me this is what makes it a really lovely moist cake, absolutely beautiful. But you will end up with a much runnier mixture than you would normally have. So here I have some boiling water. I have just boiled it and got it ready, and to that I'm going to add some espresso powder. Now you don't have to use espresso powder, that's absolutely optional, but espresso powder really enhances the flavour of chocolate and you won't taste it at all. So it won't be very coffee flavoured at all, it's just going to make your chocolate really pop. So we're going to put this in a little at a time just to loosen our mixture, and you will see, if I cannot burn myself, you will see that it will become a beautiful, silky, really lovely chocolatey mixture. So when it all comes together, you are going to have this beautiful, really runny, but absolutely decadent chocolate mixture. So good, I could drink this on its own, but I'm not going to. Right, now because this is so runny, I'm not going to pipe it like I would normally with my donuts. Instead, I'm going to pour it into my donut pan. So if I pop that down there for a moment, back in the jug that I mixed my wet ingredients in, I know there's a little bit of remnants, but that's fine because it's all mixing together. I'm going to pour this mixture in there. Look at that. I'm just going to give it a final stir through, just in case it picks up any of those extra ingredients that were in the jug. And you can see how silky and beautiful that is. These are going to make really, really delicate donuts. So these donuts, once they have baked, are actually more delicate than my usual donuts because it's very fudgy. So when we come to dipping them, we'll have to be a bit more careful, but we'll cross that bridge a bit later. So I'm going to fill this, my donut pan. I'll try that again. So I'm going to fill my donut pan, but again, you've got to make sure, as with all your donuts, that you don't fill them right to the top, because what will happen is as they rise, they will close that lovely little hole in the middle of your donut and you won't have a ring. You'll just have a bit of a dip in the middle of your donut instead, so it'll close over at the top. So we're going to fill it no more than 2/3 the way full, and then they're going to bake. Right, so my donuts are ready to be baked. My oven is nice and warm at 180 Celsius or 350 Fahrenheit, and these are going to go in for about 10 minutes. Once they come out of the oven, they're going to cool for a couple of minutes in the tin before I remove them to a cooling rack to cool, and I will see you to make the glaze and get the rest of it done. So my donuts are out of the oven and they are cooling down on this cooling rack. I got 11 donuts from that batch, but depending on how much mixture you put in, you could get 10 to 12 or so. So these are cool and ready to be iced. So now it's time to make our chocolate glaze. So in my bowl, I'm going to put some icing sugar and some cocoa powder. And then to that, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of melted butter. And I'm going to add some milk in as well. Now I'm going to start with 2 tablespoons of milk, and then I will add more if I feel my glaze is going to need it. So we're going to get mixing all of that together and just see how your glaze goes. If you feel you need to add a bit more icing sugar, have a taste of it. If you're happy with it as it is, then just stick with that as well. Don't forget, if you have enjoyed this video, to like it, and don't forget to subscribe in case you haven't already. So once you've stirred it up, you should have this beautiful, thick, gorgeous, ganache type topping. If when you put all this together, you find that it looks a bit like it's split, just pop it in the microwave for 5 seconds and then give it a stir, and it will just come together absolutely beautiful, just like this. And this is our glaze ready to be used. So now we're ready to glaze our donuts. So we'll grab a donut. Now these donuts are, like I said earlier, much softer. You can see how easily I can squeeze them. A lot of my other donuts are a bit firmer, they hold their own, but because this is meant to be more of a chocolate fudge cake, but in a donut, these are much cakier and they're much softer. So you do have to handle them a bit more delicately, just be warned. So I'm going to dip the flat side of my donut into my glaze. I'm just going to go in, drop it in, give it a little wriggle around, and then very, very, very gently pull it up. And if you've got a little bit of overhang, just give it a little wriggle to get as much of it off as you can. And then just using a spoon or a spatula, just encourage it all the way around. If there's any bits that are missing some, and get the bit off. There is our first donut done. So I'm going to get all these done, and then we will do a little bit of extra decoration as well. So my donuts are now glazed. They've got this beautiful chocolate fudgy icing on. So for decoration, I am now going to use some white chocolate. And all I'm going to do is drizzle just a little bit on one part of each donut. And as a final finishing touch, I have here some chocolate curls that I'm just going to drop over a little part of my donuts. And there you have it, chocolate fudge donuts, absolutely gorgeous. Thanks so much for joining me today. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you have, and I shall see you next time. Happy baking.